Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is uh, Thursday, April 16th, 2026. So, friendly reminder, of course, to everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, we're gonna, of course, give people a chance to come in before we get started. Um, let's see, we're now coming up on 1 minute here. La 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 la. Oh wait, actually, let me do another little ditty that I just heard the other day that kind of caught my eye. Ha ha ha, hee hee hee, little brown jug, how I love thee. Fiddle dum and fiddle dee, little brown jug for you and me. Ha ha ha, hee hee hee, little brown jug, how I love thee. Fiddle dum and fiddle dee, little brown jug for you and me. Oh yeah, right there from famous studio screen song from 1948, Little Brown Jug. Ha ha ha, hee hee hee, little brown jug, how I love thee. Fiddle dum and fiddle dee, little brown jug for you and me. All right, so we have three people here now. I guess I can get into talk about what's on tap for tonight then. So I do have an article I'm going to go over from, I believe it's Bounding into Comics. Some more, of course, Superman news. They're talking about how Man of Tomorrow bringing Maxima into the DCU? Question mark. And also with that, we'll also touch upon the television history of the other two members of the Trinity of Wonder Woman and Batman. We did Superman's television history yesterday, so we'll touch upon that. Of course, then we will get into the wrestling wrap up, look back to last night's AEW Dynamite, look ahead to tonight's Impact, TNA Impact, and Ring of Honor shows, as well as to get caught up on all the latest from the WWE heading into WrestleMania, including some updates on some injury reports. You know, then we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started? A friendly reminder, of course, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. That goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. So, with all that being said, let's get going here then. So, here's the main article we're doing tonight from Bleeding Fool. Man of Tomorrow bringing Maxima into the DCU. Article by John Pallister, published today, April 16th. Look at that look. Woo woo. That would attract a lot of guys, I would say. All right, so as anticipation builds for DC Studios' upcoming Superman sequel, Man of Tomorrow, speculation around its final unannounced role has gone into overdrive. So I guess it's based more on a movie than the actual comic. Over the past several days, a wave of casting rumors surged online, only to be decisively debunked by director and DC Studios co-chair James Gunn himself. The most prominent rumor centered on the alien queen Maxima, a character from DC Comics long speculated to appear in the film. I do remember she did make an appearance in Superman the Animated Series as well. So, an initial report from Deadline claimed that Ella Purnell, Marissa Abella and Adria Arjona had screen tested for the role. Gunn fired back on Threads, calling the report "quote unquote" shoddy and incorrect, and stating that he had never even met two of the actresses named. He emphasized that that had anyone from the outlet checked with the production, the story would have been immediately denied. Gunn further clarified that his statement was not an indirect confirmation that Maxima is in Man of Tomorrow at all. When pressed by fans, he said he was, quote, absolutely not confirming. So he's trying to leave it. He's trying to leave it as a surprise for people, but people are already speculating. So it's going to either be a huge disappointment for those who were looking forward to it, because and in that maybe even a big middle finger to those who think they know but didn't, or absolute elation that yes, she's in it. So I guess we'll just wait and see. The character's inclusion, while adding that the film has only one remaining role left to cast, with all major roles already announced. Shortly after, Gunn posted, The Hollywood Reporter came out with its own list of finalists for the role. That included Arjona, the one actress in the first report that Gunn has worked with previously, along with Ava de Dominici, Sydney Chandler, and Grace Van Patten. Wonder if Grace Van Patten is maybe related to Dick Van Patten, maybe his granddaughter or something. I don't know. Anyways. And then again, you can consider Van Patten could be considered a pretty common name. They may not even be related at all. So another rumor floating around is that Maxima is just a covered character, and that they are really casting the DCU's new Wonder Woman. While the character stories are very different, the physicality of both women are similar enough, and it would be a good cover if DC Studios wanted to keep the introduction of a major character quiet. Whichever it is, a decision will need to be made soon, as Man of Tomorrow is slated to begin filming sometime this month down in Atlanta, and is slated to be released July 9th, 2027. All right, so that article was a pretty quick one. So, as I said, I came up with an idea to try to fill out the time of it because I knew that article was going to go pretty quickly. So, much like we did yesterday with Superman, then let's go ahead and take a look at a couple other TV histories, as it were, television histories, a couple other DCU characters. Of course, I'm going to first go back and look at the Wonder Woman in television. Hold on. All right, here I'm just. All right, so let's I said we're gonna go ahead and take a look at Wonder Woman and Batman's TV histories, as it were. Wonder Woman in other media, as it were. Yeah. All right. So first off, let's of course take a look at the live action television series. So Wonder Woman appears in a self-titled film in 1974, portrayed by Kathy Lee Crosby. That was that. Um, I guess that was a television film. Let's see now. So Kathy Lee Crosby. So the 1974 Wonder Woman film here. Let's see what this all comes down to. Of course, Wonder Woman is a 1970. Now this is the television film. Is a 1974 American made-for-television superhero film based on the DC Comics character of the same name, directed by Vincent McVitie and starring Kathy Lee Crosby. The film was a pilot for an intended television series being considered by ABC. The film presented the character as a James Bond style super spy and did not contain many elements from the comic book series. Ratings were described as, quote, respectable but not exactly wondrous, unquote, and ABC did not pick up the pilot. Instead, Warner Brothers and ABC developed a different Wonder Woman television series, or television concept, that fit the more traditional presentation of the character as created by William Moulton Marston's turning away from the 1968 to 1972 era that had influenced the pilot, the new original Wonder Woman, which premiered in 1975, starred Linda Carter, and eventually led to the Wonder Woman television series. Crosby would later claim that she was offered the chance to reprise the role in the series. All right, so that was a 1974 made-for-television movie that did okay, but not enough to um, get anything to follow up with. So, all right, so going back then, now of course the next television show that of course Wonder was the next live action television show was of course the 1975 1975-76 season. Wonder Woman, known for seasons 2 and 3 as The New Adventures of Wonder Woman, is an American superhero television series based on um, DC Comics comic book superhero of the same name. It stars Linda Carter as Wonder Woman Diana Prince and Lyle Wagner as Steve Trevor, Sr. and Jr., and aired for 3 seasons from 1975 to 1979. The show's first season aired on ABC and is set in the 1940s during World War II. Second and third season aired on CBS and are set in the then current day late 1970s with the title changed to The New Adventures of Wonder Woman. Now, as I recall from this series, I think as far as I know, the only comic book villain that was brought into the series was Baroness Paula von Gunther. So, yeah. So now you did get Etta Candy in there as well, who was Norman Burton, who would go on to portray the Drago's boss or Drago's handler in Rocky. So I guess they did bring in Wonder Girl in it at one point, Paulita. So, but I do remember them saying something about Baroness Paula von Gunther. I think was in this at one point as well. So, oh, that's that was from the live action stuff. Now moving on to the of course the animated stuff. I'm going to focus more, of course, on the television side of it, as we've been doing here. So, Wonder Woman in animated form, Wonder Woman would make, of course, her animated appearances in some of the following shows here that we will focus on here in a quick moment here. So this is where you can find Wonder Woman in animated form. So animation studio Filmation considered making an animated series based on Wonder Woman in 1968 following the massive success of the TV series Batman, but nothing came of it. Now, of course, as we know, around that same time, the late 60s, 66 through 69, Filmation was doing a lot of the DC, was making animated adaptations of a lot of the DC comic heroes. Of course, we got the Adventures of Superman, which also had the New Adventures of Superboy, Aquaman, Batman. Even Batman got an animated adaptation in that. And then Wonder Woman made a guest appearance in the Brady Kids episode. It's All Greek to Me, voiced by Jane Webb. Jane Webb was a well-known voice actress in the 60s and 70s with, doing some female characters for Filmation. I know she also went on to do Batgirl in the New Adventures of Batman and Robin as well. Later on, I have seen that episode before. Do distinctly remember it. It was when Jan was trying to convince her siblings that brains are better than brawn, But I think what Wonder Woman came in and explained was, it's actually good to have both. So, let's see. Then, of course, we got Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman being one of the core members of the Justice League in the Super Friends franchise, having been voiced by several voice actresses. Voiced initially, of course, by Shannon Farnan in the original Super Friends show. Let's see. Well, she was voiced by Canadian actress Shannon Farnan in the first Super Friends show of 1973 up through, I believe, the world's greatest even Super Friends 1980 even. So that meant Shannon Farnan provided her voice in Super Friends, the all-new Super Friends Hour, Challenge of the Super Friends, the world's greatest Super Friends, and Super Friends 1980. Then Connie Caulfield took over the role in Super Friends, the legendary Super Powers show. That was when Darkseid was introduced, and they introduced the whole idea that Darkseid had a thing for Wonder Woman, which ran through, of course, Super Friends, the legendary Super Powers team, and Super Powers team Galactic Guardians, in which BJ Ward would take over the role of Wonder Woman, rather, in the Superpowers team, Galactic Guardians. Of course, B.J. Ward, known, of course, voicing Scarlet in G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, as well as Princess Allura and Hagar in Voltron. She also is Betty Ross in Incredible Hulk. So then, of course, Wonder Woman would appear in the Ruby Spears Superman cartoon, the episode Superman and Wonder Woman versus the Sorceress of Time, voiced by another G.I. Joe, Real American Hero veteran, cast member Mary McDonnell Lewis, who of course provided the voice of Lady J in that show. Let's see. Wonder Woman appears in the toy line Wonder Woman and the Star Riders. An animated series was planned but was not produced. And then, of course, Wonder Woman appears in throughout the DCAU, voiced by Susan Eisenberg. Of course, throughout the DCAU, of course, the shows that she appeared in the DCAU, primarily in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited series. In fact, there's a picture of her in Justice League right there. Then, of course, she also made a guest appearance in Batman Brave and the Bold, in which she was voiced by Vicki Lewis. She appeared in the Superman Red Sun motion comic, voiced by Wendy Lee. Wendy Lee, a longtime American dub voice actress, known for her many roles in the let's see, I think she was like some of the projects she was involved with, of course, included Zatch Bell. She was, of course, she was let's see. Well, she was Moegi, among other characters in Naruto. Anyways, she appeared in Young Justice, voiced by Maggie Q. She, of course, was in the Lego DC Comics Batman Beleaguered, voiced by Gray Delisle. In Justice League Action, she was voiced by Rachel Kinsey. And then, of course, let's see. And then she, of course, also is involved. Let's see, in the Butch Lukic produced. There's a proposed Wonder Woman animated series set during World War II, but that was rejected due to development of the live action Wonder Woman, which is set during World War II as well. Some of Lukic's concepts were incorporated into Justice Society World War II. She was in DC Superhero Girls in 2019, again voiced by Gray Delisle. Gray Delisle, who, of course, was for a long time the voice of Daphne Blake in some of the Scooby-Doo series. She appears in Scooby-Doo and Guess Who in the episode The Scooby of 1,000 Faces, where Rachel Kimsey voiced her again. Vanessa Marshall voiced her in Harley Quinn. She made an appearance in Teen Titans Go. Additionally, the DC Superhero Girls incarnation of the character makes guest appearances with Delisle reprising the role. And then there's currently an animated Wonder Woman series being in development for DC. So those are some of the television projects that Wonder Woman's been, of course, involved in. I do need to step away from the computer. I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back, but I will put some music on while I'm gone to entertain you guys while I'm gone. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So, anyways, so let me go take a quick. So now, of course, we've now that we've just taken a look at the television histories of 2/3 of DC's Trinity. Now we're going to finish that all off, of course, by looking at television history of the last member of DC's Trinity, as we which of course is Batman. Neener, 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 neener. Batman. So we're now gonna, of course, go down here and take a look at Batman's television history a bit here. And I will pull that up in a moment here. You look back over time to Batman's TV history, as it were. So first off, in the of course live action realm, of course, Batman, his first step in front of the live action camera was, of course, the 1966 self-titled series Batman, where he was portrayed by Adam West. And then Adam West once again portrayed Batman in the pilot Legends of the Superheroes. It was a one-off pilot. It was originally set to be a pilot for the show, but the show did not get picked up. Among some of the other, of course, let's see, one of the other names that was slated to be part of that show, of course, is David Ogden Stiers, known for his role as Major Charles Emerson Winchester in MASH, who was portraying the Martian Manhunter. This also had the scene in it, this pilot, Legends of the Superheroes, as I recall. It had the scene where they were trying to imply that, on at least in that show's universe, the Atom, Ray Palmer, was going to be involved in some kind of romantic relationship with Giganta. So that was that was very interesting there. And then in Birds of Prey, Batman was portrayed by Michael Keaton, of course, the movie Batman from the late 80s, early 90s. A young Bruce Wayne appears in the TV series Gotham, portrayed by David Mazouz. Batman appears in Titans, portrayed by Ian Glean. Now, these are newer shows that even I haven't watched. In his initial appearance in the first season, he is portrayed by stunt doubles Elaine Morsi and Maxime Savarius. Batman also appears in the Arrowverse series Batwoman, where he's portrayed by Warren Christie. An alternate universe variant of Bruce Wayne appears in a crossover event, Elseworlds, portrayed by the late great Kevin Conroy. Of course, the guy who provided the voice of Batman throughout the DCAU. We'll talk more about that in a bit, though. And then he appears in a pilot episode of Gotham Knights, portrayed by Dave Miller. Those are all the live action appearances of Batman. Now let's look at his animated history, as it were. Look at his animated history. So, of course, Batman first appeared in the Adventures of Batman's animated series, voiced by Olan Soleil. This was a series that was, of course, this is a Filmation series. I think this one this would eventually become part of the Batman Superman Hour. one would come around in 1968, so actually came just after. But this was a Filmation series, of course, with Olan Soleil providing the voice of Batman. Olan Soleil would become synonymous with voicing Batman in the 60s and 70s there. Then, of course, he would Adam West would provide the voice of Batman in the 1977 version of the New Adventures of Batman. Of course, that had this was also done by Filmation. Adam West and Burt Ward reprised their roles from the live-action series for that series in 1977. Then, of course, Batman would become part of the Super Friends franchise as well, with, as I said, Olan Soleil doing the voice of Batman throughout the majority of the series. From essentially from Olan Soleil provided the voice of Batman in the Super Friends franchise from the very beginning all the way up through the Super Friends legendary superpowers team, in which Olan took over the role of Professor Martin Stein for the Galactic Guardians series, and Adam West was brought in to do Batman's voice for that last series. Now they say here the last two series, but I think Olan Soleil was still around, because I know Ken Sampson, I think, did the voice of Professor Martin Stein for the Super Friends legendary superpowers team. And then, of course, Batman would appear in the DC animated, starting of course, with Batman the animated series. Of course, Kevin Conroy was the voice of Batman throughout the DCAU throughout all of its appearances, including Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Static Shock, Batman Beyond, where we see an older version of Bruce Wayne mentoring Terry McGinnis in that series, Justice League Unlimited, and Kyle Alcazar providing his voice as a child, Bruce's voice as a child. Rino Romano, who earlier on in his career was doing the dub voice of Taquito Math in Deke's version of Sailor Moon, and also did the voice of Spider-Man and Spider-Man Unlimited, would voice Batman in The Batman. In Batman, the Brave and the Bold, Dietrich Bader would take on the role of Batman in that one. Additionally, Zachary Gordon voices him as a child, while Corey Burton and Frank Welker voice parody versions of Batman, and like Batmite presents Batman's Strangest Cases. Corey Belton and Frank Welker voice acting veterans, with credits that would include shows from G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, and Transformers. And of course, Corey Burton did the voice of Brainiac throughout the DCAU as well. In Beware the Batman, he was voiced primarily by Anthony Ruvivar and by Jason Marsden as a child. Justice League Action, of course, Kevin Conroy took over the role of him as an adult, with Tara Strong as a child. Ethan Hawke provided the voice of Batman in Batwheels. In Batman Cape Crusader, he's voiced primarily by Harnish Linklater, with Santino Bernard providing his voice of the. And then Bat-Fam was released on Amazon Prime Video. And of course, he would also appear in other shows aside from DC related shows. He was in Superman, and where Olan Select. Now, let me see. This Superman was this the. Now I don't know this particular Superman. Oh, he might if it was the original Superman or the 1968 one. Um, Olan Soleil. If Olan Soleil, that was probably in the Filmation Superman. Also, Olan Soleil provided his voice in when he guest starred on Sesame Street, as well as the new Scooby Doo movies. Olan Soleil did his voice of the new Scooby Doo movies. Around the same time, of course, they were doing Super Friends, of course. Appeared in Tiny Toon Adventures, Gangbusters with Charlie Adler, another longtime voice actor, providing his voice. Charlie Adler, of course, known for portraying Lowlight in G.I. Joe, as well as Silverbolt in Transformers. He makes a cameo appearance in Freakazoid and Dance of Doom. Appears as a skeleton in Hourglass in the first season of Smallville. Bruce Wayne, Caped Crusader, a parody of Batman, appears in the Animaniacs episode Boo Wonder, voiced by Adam West. Now, Adam West also did guest star in Batman the Animated Series as well, as he guest starred as the Grey Ghost. And he also made guest starred in The Simpsons, Teen Titans episode. So you saw a lot of this. So, and I'm just kind of rushing through it a little bit more here because I realize we're coming up on 40 minutes now. So I guess I should get ready to move on to the wrestling wrap up because as you know, I think we covered quite a bit of Batman's television history there. All right, so of course we're gonna look back to last, and from the looks of it here, it looks like AEW might be doing Collision tonight again, which is not gonna. There's been some heat between AEW and TNA because Color Silver of TNA is taking too kindly the last couple of weeks of AEW doing shows opposite his on Thursdays, but that wasn't a AEW call. That was a um, Warner Brothers call, as it were. All right, so last night's AEW Dynamite. We'll take a look at that. Big things were happening there on last night's show. Coming from the Angel of the Winds Arena in Everett, Washington, and airing on TBS with Brian Danielson, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone on commentary. Don Callis would join them for certain matches. The show started off with a confrontation between Darby Allin and MJF over, of course, Darby Allin's earned title shot, and when they were going to do that. As during the end of that opening segment, Brian Danielson got the report from Tony Khan that that match would be the main event of that night. So booked on the show itself at the very beginning, main event being for the AEW World Title. MJF would be defending against Darby Allin. And you did see later in the show, of course, Sting would come to see Darby, and basically they had an exchange where Sting basically told him, "No, it's your time." Darby said, "It's showtime," and Sting said, "No, it's not showtime. It's your time." So his mentor Sting coming out to basically give him the seal of approval of it, as it were. Then the first match of the show saw Tommaso Ciampa defeat Desmond Xavier the Rascals in just under 10 minutes at 9:44. Following the match, Tommaso Ciampa let it be known that whoever won that match later on that night, he was coming for them for the AEW World Title. Kevin Knight defended the TNT title against the Death Riders' Claudio Castagnoli in 9:44 again. The first two matches each went 9 minutes 44 seconds. Wow. Interesting. Of course, after hitting, of course, the UFO splash on Castagnoli to get the win and retain the TNT title, he also let it be known that he was planning on coming for the AEW World Title. Then later on, you saw the match. Let's see. You actually saw a couple other well, before we get to some other matches here, you saw a couple other segments. One segment in which FTR, celebrating their victory over Cage and Cope, Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, and mocking them by doing the 10-second pose for those with flash photography. And then you also had a confrontation between AEW Women's World Champion Tekla and New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Champion and Jamie Hayter's current tag partner Alex Windsor, leading to Windsor challenging Tekla for the title. Now, whether or not that's coming soon, Tekla basically denied her challenge, but and of course did and Tekla's Triangle of Madness faction mates, Sisters of Sin, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart went to attack Windsor, only for Windsor to fight them off. And after that all went down, then you had the next match, of course, Will Ospreay defeating Hechicero, hitting him with the hidden blade, as Don Callis was on commentary for this matchup. And then in a match of the AEW TBS title, Willow Nightingale successfully defended the title against Camille, making her her second match back since coming back from at least kayfabe wise, was coming back from being attacked on the last show of I can't even remember the show now, but it was a show they did. It was another show they did as well as on but anyways, and then in the main event, of course, MJF defended the AEW World Title in defended AEW in the main event against Darby Allin, and in a matter of 2 minutes and 14 seconds, after 4 coffin drops by Darby Allin and a headlock takeover, Darby Allin is your new AEW World Title. Now, there had been a lot of talk for a long time that they were going to put the title on Allin. Yes, this time. Now, some people felt that this was the time because they are talking about the possibility that MJF may be going away to do some filming. So, but we'll see how they do. Allin, I do hope they do give Allin a good run with the title. As they went this route. But you already have a couple of guys who basically have already laid claim to going after the title. So I guess we will wait and see how that all pans out. Now, looking ahead to tonight's action, we'll move on next to looking ahead to tonight's action. Some of the action coming up tonight. Actually, there is actually something else going on as well. Now in WWE news, heading into this weekend's WrestleMania, apparently WWE is doing from the Las Vegas. They'll be doing WWE World at WrestleMania 42. I guess they're doing some YouTube shows entering this weekend's events there. Tonight on YouTube with Jeremy Borash and Robert Stone on commentary on YouTube, Tatum Paxley is set to defend the NXT Women's North American title on the show against Alba Fire. And then you'll also see the Motor City Machine Guns of Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley taking on Fraxium on tonight. I think when that WWE World at WrestleMania 42, I think it's kind of like more of a convention fan event. So you can check that out on YouTube. That's all going down tonight. So then moving on to AEW also will be apparently for the second week in a row, AEW will be doing a show tonight instead their Collision show on tonight instead of Saturday as they normally would do it. Coming from the Angel of the Winds Arena in Everett, Washington. The following matches are set for tonight's Collision, as the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, are set to take on the Rascals of Myron Reed and Zachary Wentz. In a World Trios title eliminator match, now as we pointed out before, these eliminator matches are a chance for the challengers to earn a shot at said title, whatever title it is. In this case, if they can last the time limit or win the match outright, then the challengers will usually earn a shot at the title. The current AEW World Trios title champions, the conglomeration of Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong, are set to try to fend off the challenge of the Lethal Twist of Jay Lethal, Blake Christian, and Lee Johnson. In women's tag team action, former AEW World Women's Champions Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander team up to take on the team of Big Ann and Danica De La Roche. In another eliminator match, this time for the Continental title, Jon Moxley is set to try to fend off the challenge of Ring of Honor World Television Champion Nick Wayne. So a lot of action-packed matches going on tonight. The Death Riders Pack is set to take on Leo Rush. In six-man tag action, Brody King teams with Máscara Dorada and Mystico to take on Bull Rivera, Casey Riff, and Ricky Gibson. And the main event for tonight, as set up last night on the last night's show, Tekla is set to defend the AEW Women's World title against Alex Windsor. So there we go with that. So also tonight, on TNA Impact on AMC, coming from the Upstate Medical University Arena at the On-Center War Memorial in Syracuse, New York, with, of course, Tom Hannafin, Matthew Rainwalt, and Nick Nemeth on commentary. Matches set up for tonight include Casey Navarro making his Impact return after being out injured, going against AJ Francis. After having confronted him at this past Sunday's Rebellion, EC3 is set to take on Eric Young. And the main event set for tonight in a women's match, Order Force Tasha Steelz is set to take on Jada Stone. All right, so that's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. Actually, I did forget to talk about so some of the injury reports going out there. It looks like Randy Orton may be heading into his match against Cody Rhodes hurt. Now, whether or not, looks like though they think he'll still be medically cleared to go. It has been confirmed that Liv Morgan has been, in fact, medically cleared after taking that hard hit a week and a half, not on this past week, but the week before's Raw, that hard hit where she, you can still see the bruises of that head-to-head collision with Roxanne Perez caused by Stephanie McClure, and still in doubt, still somewhat in doubt whether or not. Now, I've been saying it was a knee injury. Actually, from what I just heard, it's actually an ankle injury at Nikki Bella, and it's still being tight-lipped as to whether or not she is medically cleared or will be medically cleared for the four-way tag team match. So we're waiting to hear on that. So that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now with that being said, today is, of course, Thursday. Today is Thursday, April 16th, 2026. So let's go ahead and take a look back at this date in Niche history. So 2014, 2001, 2021, and 2011. All right. So first off, I'm going to head back 25 years ago. It's on this date 25 years ago, back in the year 2001, at the time known as the WWF still, World Wrestling Federation's Monday Night Raw happened from the bowling arena in Knoxville, Tennessee. The show saw Triple H defeat Jeff Hardy to become the new Intercontinental Champion on that night. Big Show defeated Kai and Tai in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Billy Gunn, Raven, and Test defeated the Radicals members of Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn with Terry Reynolds in their corner. Chris Benoit with Chris Jericho in his corner defeated William Regal, who had Kurt Angle in his corner, in 5 minutes. Chris Jericho had previously defeated Kurt Angle by DQ. Kane successfully retained the hardcore title over Steven Richards, and the show opened up with a match for the WWF Tag Team Championships in which Christian and Edge retained over the Holly Cousins, Crash and Hardcore. So now with that being said, of course, moving on to the next piece of Niche history. As we move on to the year 2011. As on this date in the year 2011, the following anime movies premiered in Japan. Shin-El Animation's Crayon Shin-Chan, Fierceness That Invites Storm, Operation Golden Spy, and TMS Entertainment's Detective Conan, Quarter of Silence. Both premiered on this date in Japan back in 2011. So 15 years ago today, Shin-El Animation's Shin-Chan movie, Fierceness That Invites Storm, Operation Golden Spy, and TMS Entertainment's Detective Conan movie, Quarter of Silence, both premiered in Japan on this date back in 2011, 15 years ago. Now moving on to the year 2014, 12 years ago today, on this date in the year 2014. The 35th issue of Mega Man from Archie Comics went on sale on this date back in 2014. It went on. It sold for $2.99 for 32 pages. So on this date, 12 years ago today, 35th issue of Mega Man from Archie Comics went on sale on this date back in 2014. Finally, we move ahead to the year 2021 as a couple of major things happened on this date in 2021 in the realm of animation. Of course, first off, Netflix Animation's Arlo the Alligator Boy premiered on Netflix on this date back in 2021, 5 years ago. Arlo the Alligator Boy is a 2021 American animated musical adventure comedy film directed by Ryan Crago in his directorial debut. The plot follows Arlo Beauregard, a boy who is half human and half alligator, is placed in a sewage drain under New York City shortly after his birth, where he is taken by a stream of water into the ocean. So, Arlo the Alligator Boy, basically, though, premiered on this date 5 years ago. Also, on this date 5 years ago, was the 48th annual Annie Awards. Of course, animation awards that were started up by the late great June Foray. The 48th annual Annie Awards were celebrating excellence in the field of animation for the year 2020. Took place at UCLA's Royce Hall as a virtual event. Let's see. For Best Animated, you got Soul from Pixar Animation, winning Best Animated Feature, Wolf Walkers, Best Animated Feature Independent, special, so basically the 40th annual Annie Awards took place on this date 5 years ago. So with that being said, that's all I got for you guys tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back with more Niche News tomorrow. And don't forget, this Sunday I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium. We'll be taking a look back at comics that went on sale in August 1940, Fox Feature Syndicate. With that being said, I thank you all for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow.